told you to quiet down, but now you wear a crown. Visionary queen with a spark.
Welcome to You Matter in Business with Ariel Faith, your brand, your story, and your success, because you matter in your business.
Welcome again to You Matter in Business. This week we're talking with Melinda Jackson again, and we're going to talk about something that is actually quite fascinating. You know, we've been exploring what it means to take courageous action in business for the last multiple weeks. And this week we're going to talk about something that's real, but also really crucial: how to maintain our mental health while building your dreams, because that is a delicate balance for a lot of us. Melinda Jackson is back to help us navigate that balance between ambitious action and sustainable well-being. So, welcome back, Melinda.
Thanks for having me.
You are very welcome. So, you have to have a story, because we talked about stories last time. You have to have a backstory to this. I kind of heard it in little pieces, but if you don't mind at least telling us why this is important to you, this particular piece of business, I would, if you're willing to share that, I would love to hear that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I know we talked about not trauma dumping previously, so I'm not going to trauma dump here, but I will tell you of the small T traumas, I guess. So I developed anxiety in third grade. I had just a very negative teacher situation, and it kind of manifested into my body and all of this stuff. And I struggled with anxiety growing up, and being from a conservative Christian Southern family. They didn't always identify that it was anxiety. They would say, pray about it or whatever. And that's all well and good. But sometimes there's some biological things happening in your brain and you need some extra help. And so I just got very bad off in college. I failed a lot of my classes because I just couldn't handle the anxiety and the pressure. And I was a college cheerleader, and it was just a lot going on, and I failed all my classes, and I was having panic attacks, and it was just not fun. So got to an okay place, moved to Los Angeles after college, and was working in big agency world and entertainment. And again, was just very much struggling with my anxiety and my depression, and just never could regulate my nervous system. So finally, after about 7 years in Los Angeles and changing jobs and being at my dream agency, I just completely burned out. I couldn't keep food down. I couldn't sleep. I was having suicidal ideations. I just was not in a good place. And so therapy wasn't helping. Nothing was helping. So I just packed up, moved back to North Carolina, worked at an agency again, never got my body out of burnout. I thought I did, but I didn't. And yeah, had very, very extreme burnout. Again, body started falling apart. I got kidney stones. I had to have kidney surgery. Was having suicidal ideations and got on medication, got in therapy again, and quit my job and really started my company, not only as a way to try to help other people one-on-one, but just to give myself that freedom of, not being in an agency and having that pressure on me. And it's taken me literally 7 years since starting my business to regulate my nervous system and get to a good place where I have the toolkit now to get myself out of burnout or to recognize the signs early on. And I'm very passionate about that. I'm very open and honest about my mental health struggles. And when I'm having a bad time with my depression or PMDD, I talk about it a lot. I'm always open and honest about it. I'm open with my clients about it. Yeah.
Well, that is a story. You are correct. Yeah. And, it's a sad but true thing that so many people struggle with anxiety right now. I mean, that's just a huge problem. 10, 20 years ago, everyone was depressed. And now it seems to be anxiety seems to be the thing that we're all wound up somehow.
Yeah.
And getting unwound. And, some of the choices that you were making at the time are high pressure. I can't imagine that Los Angeles was not high pressure.
Yeah.
Especially when you were working with, the entertainment field and your Grammy and there was high pressure with all those awards. Curious, before we get into the questions that I have for you, when you were in that state, inside yourself, you're in that state, but you're still doing excellent work. you're still succeeding from a professional standpoint. How did those two things align for you? Like, did you feel like you were fake, or what was going on inside?
Yeah, I fake a lot, imposter syndrome for sure, or they're all going to find out I don't know what I'm doing. A lot of that. And then I've heard a lot of celebrities say, or musicians say, you'll get on stage, you have a sold out arena show, and then you go back to your hotel room and you're alone and you're like, oh my God, that's what I had. That's the same thing. You're going to these red carpets and you're doing all this stuff and you're like, holy crap, like this is everything I've ever dreamed of. And then you go home and you're like, I'm not making any money. I'm working 24/7. I am exhausted. I hate my life. It's really hard. And it's hard to wrap your brain around it because you're so grateful for the experiences, but you hate your life, and it's because it's so much pressure and there's so much going on. And I didn't have the tools. Granted, I was in my 20s, who has the tools in their 20s, but I didn't have the tools at that time, no matter what. I was in therapy and everything, but sometimes you just get so far gone in that state of burnout and this disease in your nervous system. You just talking to someone's not going to do anything.
Yeah. And it depends on, there's different types of therapy, right? Some of it's more cognitive, some of it's more, so it even depends on the type of therapy.
Yeah.
If it's not the right type for what you need now, then it ends up being not the right type. That was profound. Okay, so what do you think, what's a tip that you have for entrepreneurs who, when they're in that balance state and they get those work stressors, it's much better to, as you well know, it's much better to stop it while it's still young than to have to fix it after years of damage. So what are some things that you have learned, in your own experience that have helped you to kind of say, oh, okay, this is something I need to pay attention to. I need to take a day off. I need to whatever. Give us some insight on that.
So when I started my company, it was really hard for me to reconcile the fact that I didn't have to sit at my desk 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 all day, every day. And my dad worked in finance his whole career, very corporate, very professional. But he was like, Melinda, your 50% is most people's 100. So you don't have to work all the time. It's okay. And so hearing that from my dad, who is just so hard, I was like, okay, good. And then I talked to my therapist about it. And she was like, laying in bed and sending 2 emails counts as work. And so that I have kept that in my brain because that's the reality. Sometimes you are just so burned out, you have to just lay down. You just have to lay down and send 2 emails, and that's okay. That counts. So for me, when I recognize, maybe things are starting to happen in my body or I'm spiraling out a little bit, I will lay down, or I have my toolkit of things that I do. So every morning I have to journal because I will just dump into my journal. Then all my personal thoughts are out of the way. I can go to my work notebook and write down my to-do list for the day. So that helps a lot. Sometimes it's really just realizing oh my God, I haven't drank any water today. I'm crawling out of my skin because I've had 3 cups of coffee and no water. So realizing what's actually happening in my body helps too, because I'm like, oh, I just need to drink some water, or I just need to eat. Nothing's actually wrong here. So realizing what's happening in your body and what your triggers kind of are, and figuring out what the solution is to that, and knowing that, that's going to help you in those times where you feel like you're kind of out of control.
So it's a practice of learning how to be self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to determine what those early signs are before the big signs, right?
Yep.
And sometimes we have to figure that out after, but journaling helps because sometimes you can identify them as you're going. And I've been self-employed for, goodness gracious, 30 some odd years. And most of the time I worked part-time from a time perspective and by choice. But some days you have more energy and some days you don't. Mm-hmm. And when you don't learn to respect that, I was reading an article about women in our lovely cycles, and we don't have a cycle of every day is the same. Like men have a cycle that's literally 24 hours. We're that 30-day kind of up, and then, every one of us is different. If we don't learn to identify it and respect it and take days off when we need to, then we do burn out and we get angry and frustrated, and we don't even like who we are.
Yeah. Yeah. And a few things that I've realized lately as a 38-year-old female is, one, like I said, PMDD is real, and it's not just PMS, it's PMDD. And I am going to have that 1 day a month or 2 days a month where I am like, I hate everything and I need to crawl in a hole, and oh my God, I'm going to burn it all down. That's normal. I'm like, oh, nothing's wrong with me. This isn't my depression, really. It's just my period's about to come. Like, it's okay. Everything's fine. Or like you said, some days you have more energy. I have 1 day a week where I can work 12 hours and I am unstoppable. And that's going to make up for the other day a week where I'm like, I can't do anything. I just can't function today. And that's okay because it balances out in the end.
Exactly. So do me a favor, just because I don't know the new lingo. I know the older lingo. I won't, I'll admit it. They keep changing all the names of everything. We used to call it PMS.
Mm-hmm.
So what is P?
So PMDD is like PMS. So PMS is a thing. PMDD is like premenstrual dysphoric something disorder or something. I don't really know the things, but it's essentially like, so, and this doesn't happen to everybody, but especially women that maybe have anxiety and depression, you are going to have that extreme mental low like 2 or 3 days before your period. So it's not just the like normal PMS of, oh, I just don't feel gross, or I don't feel good, I feel gross, I don't like everybody. It's like, oh my God, I don't want to be on this planet.
Okay.
But it's only for 24 hours. And so that's being more studied now and more recognized. And for me, I'm like, how much of my mental health in LA was because of that? I don't know. And had I known, maybe that would have helped me a little bit. But now, like my friends and I, will always send each other a group text and we're like, I want to divorce my husband today. And it's like, you're just on your period. It's coming. Like, we know, like there's 1 day a month where you want to burn down your entire life. And that's just what's happening. And it's normal. It's okay.
Crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And a lot of this, you have control over some things, but there's some of it that it's all physical.
Exactly.
And you're just reacting to it. And you're just please get me through today.
Yeah. And it's literally physically just a hormone dump. That's all it is. And recognizing that, I'm like, okay, I will feel completely different tomorrow, and it is okay.
That's good. I love that you do that. So you're open about discussing this burnout and mental health struggles, but why do you think it's important for business leaders to share these stories, and how can they do it authentically? So, you're doing a great job of sharing real and sharing, there's a balance we talked about before about oversharing and undersharing, and
behind the lens, crafting tales and news.
Bring your marketing, your brand to life with storytelling and strategy. Cut through the noise with clear messaging and compelling visuals that resonate with your ideal client. We bring strategy, story, and visuals to help you with your marketing. Visit arieljoyfaith.com and schedule a consultation and see how we can help you bring your brand to life.
Selfies here, just genuine sight. Authenticity in every life.
I can tell that you're definitely a specialist in PR because you do really well on the fly. But what do you think is, for those of us that aren't PR experts, when we talk about these stories and sharing these kind of deeper, more personal things, I know that they impact other women because they've lived through it too, right? So I understand that part of it. But how do we distill, like, I'm not in my 30s, so I have a little bit more of a story bank than you do, right? So what is important in today's world in terms of the stories? How do you figure that out? If you've got 20 different stories that you could tell, how do you know which one to kind of pull in?
For clients, obviously it's easy for me because I just talk about what I feel like talking about. Like it doesn't matter. And I know I can talk about it till the end of time. But for clients, when I'm talking to them, I pick up those gems just from normal conversation. So when I'm onboarding a client, we just talk for like an hour and then I'm like, wait, that needs to be a thing. And I'll ask, where did you grow up? What did you do? Did you play any sports? All those fun things. And we'll pull those out. But at the end of the day, you just want a story that you feel comfortable talking about that actually has relevance and could resonate with somebody else. And it's going to be different for everybody. But I have to make sure that my clients are comfortable talking about it and I can trust that I'm going to send them to a podcast and they can talk about it and they're not going to mess it up and they're going to relate it back to, their brand in a cohesive way and not just go off the deep end.
Yeah. You don't want to trigger them while they're on a podcast or on a live interview or something.
Yes. So really it's just, what do you feel comfortable talking about? What makes sense to talk about? It can be a fun anecdote or it can actually tie back into the brand, but what feels comfortable, what's not going to be polarizing.
Okay. And then how do you know, or how do you teach people or help people see which one is really relevant to their business and which ones are really not relevant?
Yeah,
right?
We just dig in and try to find a through line. Like I said, for me, I was a college cheerleader. Now I'm a professional cheerleader for people's brands, figuring out that. I have a client who is a cancer survivor and they started a retreat in California where they host people going through their own healing journey. So obviously that's a smart tie in there, but we don't go too far into the dark of the cancer because we don't want to do that. Right.
Right.
They're a survivor. You
want to show the light on the other side.
Exactly. So you have to find the balance and just find a through line that actually makes sense. Not that I grew up on a tobacco farm. That has nothing to do with my PR business. So I'm not like, hey, I have a farm, it's not a thing.
That was a good analogy. I liked that.
Yeah.
For women who are building businesses while managing life's responsibilities, what are some practical strategies for preventing overwhelm?
I'm so bad at this, but delegate when you can. Don't be afraid to ask for help. As women, we hate asking for help, especially people like me. I'm the youngest daughter. And I'm like, I'm so independent. I can do everything. Like, no, I don't need anyone. But
too.
Yeah, it's so hard. You have to delegate, ask for help, and don't be afraid to lean on your community. People always want to help. So I posted on my Instagram today, like I have to make a personal advisory board. Like I need my women in my corner that I can bounce ideas off of. I can't keep being on an island by myself. And I got so many women that were like, let's hop on a call this week. So try to do things like that. Try to put people in your corner that you can ask advice from or delegate to or just vent to. And that'll help a lot because it is really hard doing this on your own.
It is. And I think there's something about, and I don't think this matters whether you're an extrovert or introvert, but there's something about working by yourself. I've been doing this for like 30 years. So with different industries, but when you are by yourself and you're doing work, there's something about yes, you get stuff done because you're not being bothered by the people in the office, but there's a social thing that women need that we don't get.
Yeah.
Right. So, and I'm generally an introvert. So my needs are smaller than a person who would be an extrovert. But if I am just kind of like stuck in my little office for hours and hours, there's something very empty about that.
Yeah.
There's no connection to humans, right? You're just connected to whatever task you're doing.
And I don't know if you're like me, I'll realize, especially working from home, I haven't left the house in 2 days. And I'm like, what have I done? Have I talked to a person that does not live in this house? No.
Well, I do on Zoom.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I might have left my house at least 3 times this week. I mean, that's
Yeah.
sad but true, right? Because your house is your office. So you have to learn to compartmentalize that too. I don't know if you've mastered that one yet, but
Yeah, I actually host virtual co-working 3 times a week. So
Okay.
it's women only, and we sometimes we'll have 15 women, sometimes it's just me and one other person, but we'll set a 45-minute timer and we all go on mute and we just work together on Zoom, and that helps a lot. And I started going to co-working spaces. I have 2 different ones that I go to just so I can see other human beings. But I think that tricks our brains. I'm very extroverted, so I need people around me at all times, but I also am very ADHD and I cannot get stuff done if I'm like squirrel, So I have to find that balance too.
I understand both of those. How do you think entrepreneurs can recognize when they're pushing too hard and they need to step back, especially when they're passionate about their mission? So they really love what they're doing, but their life is getting out of balance.
Yeah. And that's hard because I don't feel like I have anything in balance, honestly. I'm trying though. And I like balance. I think balance is a myth, especially the work-life balance. I know so many powerful CEOs and they're like, work-life balance does not exist. Like, you're always going to have to sacrifice one for the other, but it's just a matter of figuring out when can you sacrifice one for the other. I think if it comes to the point where, family's getting in the way of work, okay, start stepping it back a little bit from work, or just saying, okay, I am going to end every single day at 3:00 when my kids get off work. I'm very fortunate. My mom started doing taxes when I was in kindergarten and opened a tax office. And so she did it only because she knew she only had to work January to April. So I always had my mom there in the summers, which was really great. And I'm very lucky for that. But January to April, I did not see my mom at all. It was cool for me and my brother because we learned how to cook and we were latchkey kids for 4 months. But it's hard. And I know that there's now as an adult, there's a lot of regret there on her end of having to miss out on things, but you will find a balance that works for you. And what is working for your friends is not going to work for you. And that's okay. You only can control your life.
Yeah. When I think about work-life balance in my mind, I'm starting to see the circus guy he's riding a unicycle and he's juggling and he's like going back and forth. And to me, that's what work and life balance is. It's not one answer. It's a constant movement that you have to kind of learn to almost dance with as the shifts are happening, because every day is different.
Exactly.
It'd be nice if every day was the same, but they're not. So between our energy and our hormone cycles, between our emotional energy, because that's it, our creative, all those things, if we have it one day and we don't on another, it's the nice thing about being self-employed is I have a really great boss, because if I need the day off, she says, go ahead. That's a nice thing. But if you take too many days off, that's not a nice thing, because then you have nothing's coming in. So you have to kind of, again, you're riding that unicycle and you're throwing these things in the air and you're trying not to drop them. So I do think there is a way to honor yourself in the balance you need. And your balance will be different than my balance. And that is to me where that, knowing yourself and being aware of your limitations and honoring them instead of fighting them. And they shift. As soon as you figure out the 38-year-old hormones, 10 years from now, you're going to be figuring out some other.
Don't wish that on me.
I'm not. It's just kind of inevitable. Maybe it's 58 that'll hit you. Or 68. That would even be better. Okay, quick question. What role does community, and we kind of talked about this, but I want to dig a little deeper into it, community and connection play in maintaining mental health as a business owner, particularly when we are working solo? So let's dig a little bit deeper into that.
Yeah. So like I said, I'm so extroverted. I need community all the time. I just need to be talking to someone at all times of the day. So I have been really, really lonely being an entrepreneur, and I'm based in Raleigh, North Carolina, where there are networking groups, but I just didn't resonate with any of them. And I started my own happy hour. It's called Raleigh Female Founder Happy Hour. And each month we have anywhere from 35 to 75 women that show up, and there's no agenda. We just stand around in my co-working space office and just scream at each other because it gets so loud because everyone's talking. And we just stand around with wine and we gossip. And like that is so healing, just going there and realizing like, oh my gosh, there's a room full of women that are experiencing the exact same thing as me, and they all hate their lives, but they're all so lucky to be doing what they're doing, and we're all in this together. That's has been like so transformative for me, and also just meeting women that are honest with each other, that, you know, some days you are going to be a millionaire, and the next day you're going to have negative $3 in your bank account, and then the next day you'll have 200. That's just how it works, and it sucks, but that's the life we chose, and we're all doing the best we can. So that has been so healing for me, and it helps me realize that, you know, I'm not just a crazy person. I'm not just doing this to myself. We're all doing it to ourselves.
And the other choice is going back into a grind that we really don't control.
Mhm.
So, you know, it's a matter of choices. Which one of these fits me better? I know that I don't fit very well in large corporations just because I don't play by the political rules of companies. I tend to play by the values I have. And if the political rules don't mesh with my values will win. And then that gets me in trouble in an office with a lot of people, especially with a bunch of male dominated industries.
Yes. I think you're saying it in a nice way. I will just cuss somebody out. I'll be like, I cannot be bothered by this. We're not curing cancer here. You need to calm down.
Yeah, I was trying to be polite.
I'm not. So
you know, it's a strength and a weakness, right? Okay, so if you could leave the audience with one really important thing, or one thing that is just so important to know about themselves, or to know about the the communities that exist outside, or just something that a woman who is struggling with all of this. And I think, I mean, I really do believe, honestly, I can say that I think all of us do. Whether we're acknowledging it, whether we admit it, is a whole nother story. But the easiest way that we can start to talk about it is to talk about it, right?
Mhm.
When we start giving other people permission to say, hey, you know, I understand I have a lifelong of depression, right? That's, in fact, at one point in time, I took one of those tests, you know, those tests that take you to the doctor, and I'm
Yeah.
feeling really good. I thought my life was going really good. And they said, you're clinically depressed. And I went, oh, heck, my good is depressed? What the heck? So my whole life was in a state of depression, but I never knew that because I have that, whatever that is.
That's your baseline. Your baseline
My
is
baseline
negative.
is depressed. So it was like, that's not good. I need to change that.
I made a therapist cry one time like that. That's another story for another day. And then I knew I had to get another therapist if I made my therapist cry.
Yeah. I had one that kept changing the subject because I was getting too close to her stuff.
Oh.
You know, it's like, well, I can't help it. But it's funny, you know, you have to get I've had good ones, and I've had some I had to get another one. That's
Yeah.
But I found it goes along with that community. I found support groups and group therapy to be way more productive than the individual therapy, because when you're one-to-one, you can almost play a game, right? You can almost mask and you can dance around something for weeks, months. But when you're in a group dynamic, there's something about the reality of that group that gives you the strength to almost like punch through some of that stuff. Have you had any similar experiences?
Yeah. I think we got derailed from your question, but what I was
Okay.
going to say, it's fine. I'll bring it back, girl. That's why I'm a publicist. But what I was going to say is the thing that helps me and that I would advise other people to do is like find your battle buddy, find your people. It could be one person, it could be multiple people, but find somebody. If you're not looking for a therapist, find someone that's actually an entrepreneur that gets it. Because going to my friends, just my normal everyday friends who work corporate jobs, don't understand why I am broke one day and rich the next day and broke again the next day. They don't understand that. And they don't understand just the ups and downs of it all. And they want to, but sometimes they'll just say, well, why don't you just get a job? And I want to burn their house down because I've worked so hard for this. So find somebody that like gets it and just complain with them and just have your venting session and find your safe space. I didn't have that, so I created it, and you can do the same. Or if that feels weird to you, I'm sure there's other groups in your area, like you were saying, group therapy. I've never done traditional group therapy. I've done family therapy, and that was not fun. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Because everybody's pointing the finger at the other person. But find your tribe. And if you don't have it, build it. And my first happy hour, I posted on Threads, are there any other female founders in Raleigh that are alone and that just want to be friends? And I had 150 likes and like 31 comments. So that gave me the confidence to just put up a link to an event. And I had 50 people RSVP to the first one, and the news freaking showed up because they were like, people on Threads came to her happy hour, So do that.
That's good PR.
Yeah, it was accidental. And I actually turned them down 3 times. I was like, please don't come. Nobody's going to show up. And then everybody showed up, and so did the news. So, if you're extroverted like me, create that if you don't already have it. And if you want to reach out to me, I'm happy to give advice. But, find your person or find your tribe that actually understands what you're going through.
Very good advice. So I'm going to have information about you in the show notes. But if somebody wants to reach you or get a hold of you or see how you can help them, we didn't really talk about that a whole lot. But if a person's writing a book, say, would you be a good person to hire to say, hey, I need to distill this down to a message that means something? Or do they already have the book done and then you help them promote it? How do you fit in the world of business?
Either or. So my Grammy is for an audiobook. So I have done a lot of book PR. But yeah, either way, I can't publish your book. People think public relations is publishing. I don't publish it, but I'll help you with the messaging. I'll help you, especially if you have a book that you're trying to shop around. I can help you, with your elevator pitch and maybe your pitch deck and things like that. And then if you have already written a book, I'm your girl. I currently have a client right now that wrote a book, and she came to me for podcasts only. And so I think I sent it through today. I've gotten her 25 podcasts this month. So I can load you up.
I get them every once in a while, emails from somebody in PR that wants to introduce me to somebody, and I never hear from them after that. It's really weird. I give them a calendar. What?
Oh, they're probably spraying and praying, but
is that what it is?
Blasting it out. Yeah. Or I'm sorry, I don't know why they're doing that. I always try to facilitate them or tell them like, hey, the client passed, or I don't work with the client anymore, because sometimes it happens.
Yeah. And I can understand all that, but I do have, ridiculous amount of email in my email box. So it might be sitting there longer. You never know. I might not be fast enough. Okay. It was a pleasure meeting you.
Yeah, you too.
And I feel for your pain. And I'm so glad that you are on a road of strength and recovery and helping other women that are going through the same thing, because I think that doesn't make it better, but it makes the pain have a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a way that we share the light on the other side of the pain. So I think that's beautiful.
And I always say that my being seen helps other people feel comfortable being seen. So
100%. And I appreciate that because I know it's not always easy talking about some of those harder issues. But I mean, you can talk about it, which is what we did, without getting into detail. You know what I mean? And I think that's something people need to understand is you can talk about a subject that's really hard and ugly without bringing up the details that are even uglier, that make everyone uncomfortable. So there's a real balance there, but I think it's very achievable. I think you did a great job today with that. So thank you very much. And I appreciate your time. And I wish I could say I'm bringing you back for another episode, but I can't steal
You
all.
already did. You
I
already
did. You're right. So thanks for joining us. And I will share your info with the audience in the show notes.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right.
See you next episode. After all, it is your brand, your story, and your success, because I know that you matter in business. Thank you for listening to You Matter in Business podcast. Please follow, share, like, and comment. I would love to hear from you. This podcast is sponsored by Ariel Faith Storytelling Marketing and Your Brand Photographer. The show notes provide more information on how to contact Ariel and more information about this episode. Thank you again.
They told you to quiet down, but now you wear a crown. Visionary queen with a spark, lighting up the dark. Rediscover your own fire, chase the dreams that lift you higher. Redefine your role today, brand new in every way. Build your confidence through my lens, break the walls you put on since. Embrace your power, hear your roar. You are meant for so much more. You are meant for so much more.